There's a moment every trader knows too well. You enter a trade with confidence. Your setup is clean. Your analysis is solid. Everything lines up exactly the way it should. The candle moves in your favor. Green numbers flash on your screen. Your heart beats faster. It's working. You're right. And then, out of nowhere, a thought whispers. Take it now, before it disappears. You hover over the close button. You hesitate. You know the plan says hold, but your hand moves anyway. Click. The trade is gone. Profit secured. Relief floods in. You feel safe. But then, you look back. Price keeps moving. Further and further. Straight to your original target. You just left half your profit on the table. And the relief turns to regret. That moment, that quiet sting after a premature exit, is the invisible wall that separates amateurs from professionals. It's not the market that beats you. It's you. Holding a trade sounds simple, but it's the hardest part of trading. Not because of the charts, but because of what happens inside your mind when money is at risk. Fear, doubt, impatience. They all arrive the moment you're in profit. Fear whispers, what if it reverses? Doubt asks, was your analysis even right? Impatience says, it's taking too long. And all three are lying to you. Because the truth is this. You didn't close early because of logic. You closed early because of emotion. You closed early because your brain values short-term safety over long-term success. You closed early because comfort feels like control. But in trading, comfort is an illusion. When you cut a trade before it matures, you're not protecting yourself. You're sabotaging your edge. Every early exit tells your brain, fear wins. Every disciplined hold tells your brain, patience wins. And whichever message you repeat becomes who you are. The market doesn't just test your analysis. It tests your character. It shows you what kind of person you are under pressure. And most traders don't like what they see. Because deep down, we're not wired for patience. We're wired for survival. And survival says, take what you can now. That instinct served our ancestors. But in the market, it kills consistency. You can have the best system in the world. You can master entries, risk management, technicals. But if you can't hold, none of it matters. Think about this. You risk 20 pips to make 60. 3-to-1 reward ratio. Perfect edge. But you keep closing at plus 10 because it feels safe. Do that long enough, and your math breaks. Your strategy becomes a losing one. Not because of the market, but because of you. It's not your broker. It's not the indicator. It's not the news. It's your inability to sit still. The market punishes impatience. Every time you trade for comfort instead of conviction, you pay a hidden tax. And that tax is your growth. Professionals understand this. They know their edge doesn't come from predicting price. It comes from controlling themselves. That's why they seem calm when everyone else panics. They're not fearless. They're trained. They've felt the same anxiety, the same heartbeat, the same temptation to close early. But they've learned to wait, to breathe, to let the process unfold. They know the power of holding, because holding is where profit multiplies. Holding is where patience compounds. Holding is where you transform from trader to professional. Every trade is a mirror. It shows you your relationship with time, with fear, with control. Most traders think they're fighting the market. They're not. They're fighting themselves. Let's be honest. You don't close early because of logic. You close early because you can't handle the unknown. You can't stand the silence between entry and result. That silence feels unbearable. But that silence, that waiting, is the space where discipline is built. Holding a trade is emotional endurance. It's the ability to stay still while your brain screams for action. It's the courage to say, my plan matters more than my feelings. That's what separates those who grow from those who quit. Every professional trader has faced this test. The temptation to exit early, the need to lock it in. But they learned something critical. Taking quick profits doesn't make you safe. It keeps you small. Because the goal isn't to avoid discomfort. The goal is to master it. To recognize that fear is just noise. That the discomfort of holding is proof you're on the right path. Every candle that tests you is training you. Every pullback that shakes you is sharpening you. If you can endure it, you become unbreakable. This is why trading is more than charts. It's a mirror of your mind. It shows you how you deal with uncertainty, how you react when things don't move fast enough, how you respond when you're uncomfortable. The truth is, trading isn't about prediction. It's about endurance. The longer you can sit in discomfort, the greater your reward. Most traders fail not because they can't analyze, but because they can't wait. They lose not to price, but to time. Time exposes emotional weakness, and the market is relentless in finding it. But here's the good news. You can train patience. Patience is a muscle. Every time you hold through discomfort, you make it stronger. Every time you break early, you make it weaker. You decide which side you feed. If you treat every trade like a personal verdict, a test of your intelligence, your worth, your skill, you'll burn out. But if you treat every trade as part of a process, as one spin of a probability wheel, you'll finally start to see growth. That's what professionals do. They think in probabilities, not emotions. They know each trade is just data, just another repetition in the long game. Their focus isn't on this trade. It's on the next 100, because they know consistency only appears over time. If you want to think like a professional, you have to detach. Detach from outcomes, detach from fear, detach from the illusion of control. Your only job is execution. Follow your plan. Hold until your system says otherwise. Nothing more, nothing less. That's discipline. That's mastery. And that's the art of holding trades. The amateurs obsess over entries. They chase signals, they tweak indicators, they hunt for perfection. The professionals? They obsess over execution. They know the edge isn't in the entry. It's in the hold. Anyone can get in. Few can stay in. Because staying in means surrendering control. And surrendering control feels like weakness. But it's the ultimate strength. You can't force the market. You can't hurry the chart. You can only align with it and let it unfold. That's the paradox. The less you try to control, the more control you actually gain. Because control over the market is an illusion. But control over yourself, that's real. That's power. The traders who last don't fight the flow. They flow with it. They execute, then detach. They hold, then review. They don't chase. They wait. They know waiting isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Holding a trade is an act of faith, not in luck, but in preparation. It says, I trust my plan. I trust my process. That trust is earned, not wished for. It's built through backtesting, journaling, and repetition. You don't build trust by hoping. You build it by proving to yourself that your system works. When you know your edge, you stop fearing time. You stop flinching at noise. You start to see what the market is actually showing you. Noise fades. Patience speaks. And that's when trading becomes simple. Not easy, never easy, but simple. Hold through fear. Hold through doubt. Hold through boredom. Because the market rewards endurance. Not drama, not speed. Endurance. You think you're trading the market, but the truth is the market is trading you. Every flicker of the candle, every pullback, every whisper of volatility, it all tests your conviction. You say you trust your system, but do you? You say you believe in your plan, but the moment price hesitates, your belief starts to shake. That's the real game. Not price movement, but emotional movement. Because the chart isn't your enemy. The chart is a mirror. It reflects every weakness you try to hide. The fear of loss, the fear of missing out, the need to be right. They all live there, between each tick. And the cruel part? The market has infinite patience. It will wait as long as it takes for you to flinch. It doesn't need to move fast. It just needs to make you move first. Most traders don't lose because of bad analysis. They lose because they can't wait for their analysis to play out. They want instant proof, immediate validation. But trading doesn't reward need. It rewards neutrality. The moment you need something from the market, it owns you. That's why professionals detach. They enter a position, define risk, define reward, then walk away. They don't stare at every tick. They don't measure their worth in pips. They measure it in discipline. Because discipline is the only currency that compounds forever. Ask yourself, how many trades have you destroyed by staring at them too long? How many times did your mind invent reasons to exit early? How many logical justifications were really just fear in disguise? You told yourself, it's losing momentum. I'll re-enter later. Better safe than sorry. But deep down, you know. It wasn't logic. It was emotion wearing logic's clothes. That's why patience is so rare, because patience requires trust, and trust takes evidence. If you've never proven to yourself that your edge works over time, you'll never trust it in the moment. And if you can't trust it, you'll always interfere. That's why professionals journal relentlessly, not because it's glamorous, but because it builds belief. Every backtest, every review, every recorded trade, it adds one more brick to the wall of confidence. And that wall is what holds you when fear tries to knock you down. Without that wall, every fluctuation feels personal. Every red candle feels like betrayal. But once you build it, you stop reacting. You start observing. You stop chasing control. You start controlling yourself. The difference between reacting and observing is everything. Reacting is emotional. Observing is strategic. Reacting says, I have to do something. Observing says, I see what's happening and I'll act when the plan tells me to. Reacting is noise. Observing is signal. That's what holding a trade teaches you. It teaches you how to live in uncertainty without surrendering to it. It forces you to face every part of yourself that craves comfort. The market doesn't punish you for fear. It punishes you for obeying it. And here's the irony. The uncomfort you avoid is the very thing that would have made you stronger. If you can sit through it, you evolve. If you escape it, you repeat it. That's why some traders spend years in the same emotional loop, the same fear, the same mistakes, the same excuses. Because they never stayed in the discomfort long enough to learn from it. When you hold a trade, you're not just holding a position. You're holding space for growth. Every tick tests your emotional ceiling. Every pullback raises it. And then one day, something changes. You realize the fear doesn't hit as hard. The urge to close early doesn't control you anymore. You feel calm where you used to panic. That's the moment you cross the invisible line from reactive trader to disciplined operator. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens trade by trade, test by test, hold by hold. You can't fake discipline. You can't buy it. You earn it through repetition and pain, through waiting when every part of you wants to act. Because action feels powerful, but in trading, most action is just noise disguised as control. Control is seductive. It whispers, if you just tweak this, maybe you'll win faster. But the truth is, every unnecessary touch dilutes your edge. The market doesn't need you to intervene. It needs you to stay out of your own way. Professionals know this. They set the plan, they execute it once, then step aside. That's their secret weapon, emotional restraint. They understand that consistency doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less, better. Fewer trades, cleaner execution, more patience, more silence. They know that noise in the mind equals chaos on the chart. Silence in the mind equals clarity in execution. That's the art of holding. It's not passive, it's powerful restraint. Imagine two traders again. Same pair, same entry, same stop, same target. One stares at the screen, heart pounding with every candle. The other checks in only when needed. The first one is emotionally exhausted before the trade even ends. The second one conserves energy and clarity. The result is one sabotages himself halfway through, the other collects the full move. The difference is invisible, but the impact is enormous. That's why emotional control is the real edge. It's the variable most traders ignore because it can't be plotted on a chart, but it's the only one that decides your outcome. If your emotions control your exits, your results will always betray your logic. You can't out-analyze your nervous system. You have to retrain it. That means exposing it to discomfort until discomfort feels normal. You have to normalize waiting. You have to normalize seeing price pullback without reacting. You have to normalize silence. Only then will patience stop feeling like pain and start feeling like power. The longer you trade, the more you'll realize patience is power. It's the most counterintuitive lesson in this game. Everyone wants to do more. The pros do less. Because doing less means letting probability breathe, and probability is the real engine of profit. The market doesn't reward constant activity. It rewards consistency. It rewards alignment with a plan over hundreds of trades, not one. Think long game. Always long game. The long game is what turns randomness into data and data into edge. It's what separates lucky trades from sustainable growth. The long game is boring, and that's why so few can play it. Most traders don't lose because they're bad at trading. They lose because they can't tolerate boredom. Boredom kills more accounts than volatility ever could, because boredom whispers, do something. It tempts you into overtrading, overmanaging, overthinking. But boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is proof you're following the plan. Real discipline feels uneventful. It's not fireworks, it's not adrenaline. It's calm, deliberate, repetitive action. That's what builds equity curves that rise quietly while everyone else is chasing excitement. The traders who last treat boredom as a signal, not a problem. They know boredom means they're in control, because when your trading feels exciting, it usually means you've lost discipline. Excitement is volatility in the mind. Patience is equilibrium. The ability to stay calm while waiting for your plan to unfold is what separates the noise chaser from the professional. This is the paradox of mastery. The more boring your trading becomes, the more profitable it gets. It's not about endless action. It's about precision, restraint, and patience. You don't win because you trade often. You win because you trade right. Holding a trade is the perfect microcosm of life. It's about wading through uncertainty, trusting your preparation, and staying calm when nothing seems to happen. And in both trading and life, the people who master waiting master outcomes. Patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing exactly what's necessary and no more. When you look back at your trades months later, you won't remember the small early exits that felt safe. You'll remember the ones you held, the ones that tested you, the ones that paid you for your patience. Every strong trader can trace their growth back to a single realization. My job is not to predict, my job is to endure. Endurance is what keeps you steady when emotions rise. It's what allows you to play the long game without burning out. It's what transforms fear into focus. You'll still feel doubt. You'll still feel fear, but they won't control you anymore. They'll just be background noise. And that's when trading becomes something different. Not a chase, but a craft. You stop reacting. You start executing. You stop hoping. You start trusting. You stop needing. You start knowing.
That's the moment when holding a trade no longer feels like torture. It feels like control. Real control. Over yourself. Holding is not about waiting for profit. It's about proving to yourself that you can stay still under pressure. That's mastery, that's growth, and once you've felt it, you never go back. The longer you stay in the game, the clearer the truth becomes. Trading is not about prediction, it's about time. Not clock time, emotional time. The hours you can stay calm when others panic. The minutes you can wait while doubt eats at you. The seconds you can resist doing something stupid when your instincts scream for control. That's the real skill. Not analysis, not entry precision, not indicators. It's endurance. The market rewards those who can outlast their emotions, the ones who stay disciplined longer than the noise lasts. Every chart, every setup, every candle is temporary, but discipline, that lasts forever. You can buy information, you can copy strategies, but you can't borrow discipline. You have to build it, brick by brick, trade by trade. And building discipline hurts because it means sacrificing comfort. It means sitting in silence while your brain pleads for action. It means saying no to every impulse that promises relief. Relief feels good, but relief is a trap. It's the same trap that steals your edge. The moment you seek relief instead of results, you lose. Because the market doesn't pay you for comfort. It pays you for conviction. It pays you for the courage to follow your plan even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The amateurs crumble when emotion rises. The professionals breathe through it. The amateurs chase quick satisfaction. The professionals seek consistency. The amateurs trade to feel right. The professionals trade to execute right. That's the difference. Execution over emotion, discipline over dopamine. You can't fake it, you can't skip it, you can only train it. That's why every trade matters, not for its result, but for its repetition. Each trade is a rehearsal for patience. Each hold is a lesson in restraint. Each uncomfortable silence is another rep in the gym of emotional endurance. And over time, those reps add up. They build the mental muscle that lets you hold when others fold. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, it's repetition. But repetition is the foundation of mastery. Think of the market like a storm. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care how smart you are. It doesn't care how badly you want it. It just tests you. And the only traders who survive the storm are the ones who stop fighting it. They don't chase the wind. They anchor themselves to process. They understand that chaos is constant, but discipline can be too. They know the market doesn't owe them anything. Every win is rented, never owned. And rent is due in patience every single day. When you finally accept that truth, trading changes. It stops being a battlefield and becomes a meditation. You enter, define risk, and wait. You stop predicting and start observing. You stop needing and start trusting. You stop fighting and start aligning. Because real traders don't conquer the market, they coexist with it. They don't need to be right. They need to be disciplined. They don't measure themselves by profits. They measure themselves by how well they executed. If they followed the plan, they already won. If they didn't, the money doesn't matter. That's the mindset shift. That's where true freedom begins. Because once you detach your identity from the outcome of a single trade, the market loses its power over you. You stop fearing red candles. You stop worshiping green ones. You see both as data. Information, not identity. You start thinking like a scientist. You form a hypothesis, your setup. You test it, your trade. You record the result, your journal. You repeat. That's it. Science doesn't take losses personally, it just keeps testing until truth emerges. That's how professional traders operate. They don't expect perfection, they expect process. Because process is where consistency lives. When you hold trades, you're not proving you're right. You're proving you can follow through. And follow through is everything. Every unfinished trade, every early exit is a broken promise to yourself. But every trade you hold according to plan is a promise kept. And the more promises you keep, the more trust you build in yourself. That trust compounds faster than any account could. Because eventually, belief replaces fear. Clarity replaces noise. Patience replaces impulse. And that's when something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing the market, and the market starts rewarding you. Not because you've outsmarted it, but because you've stopped fighting it. That's when you realize the real game was never about entries or exits. It was about emotional mastery. And mastery isn't loud. It's quiet. It's calm. It's stillness under pressure. Most traders think they need to learn more indicators, but what they really need to learn is how to wait. Patience doesn't cost money, but it pays more than anything else in this game. Every second you hold through discomfort is a deposit in your account of discipline, and that account pays dividends for life. But patience requires something rare, humility. The humility to admit you don't control the market, the humility to accept randomness, the humility to sit in uncertainty without breaking. Humility isn't weakness, it's strength refined by reality. It's knowing you can't force the market, but you can control yourself. The more humility you become, the more powerful you get. Because power without humility turns into arrogance, and arrogance is what the market hunts first. The moment you think you've mastered it, it humiliates you. Every trader gets humiliated eventually. The pros learn from it. The amateurs quit. You can't avoid being tested. You can only choose how you respond. Every drawdown, every fakeout, every missed target is a lesson disguised as pain, and pain is the tuition of progress. You can't learn patience from a winning streak. You learn it from the trades that drag sideways for hours, from the ones that test every fiber of your self-control. Because growth doesn't happen in comfort, growth happens in tension. Every time you want to quit but don't, that's growth. Every time you want to close early but hold, that's growth. Every time you take the hard option, that's growth. The market doesn't build traders. Pain does, patience does, persistence does. It's not about talent, it's about endurance. It's about who can stay consistent when the emotional storm hits. That's why the pros don't flinch. They've seen it all. They've held through fear enough times to know fear fades, results remain. They understand that patience isn't passive, it's active control over chaos. It's choosing not to react when reaction feels like relief. And that choice, repeated hundreds of times, is what builds mastery. When you hold through noise, you're not just holding for profit. You're holding to prove something to yourself. That you can. That you're bigger than your impulses. That you can trust yourself under pressure. That's the art of holding trades. It's not about price movement, it's about self-mastery. And the irony is that the better you master yourself, the less effort you need. Because clarity replaces chaos. You stop forcing trades. You start flowing with them. You stop chasing results. You start executing systems. You stop measuring success by today's P&L. You start measuring it by how well you executed the plan. That's the shift. That's when you stop surviving and start thriving. You realize this game was never about the money. Money is a byproduct. The real reward is control over your mind, your fear, your impulses. Because once you have that, no loss can break you, no drawdown can define you, no winning streak can blind you. You become steady, calm, focused. You stop chasing the market because you've already found mastery. in yourself. So the next time you're in a trade and fear whispers, "Close now," pause. Remember what's really being tested. It's not your analysis, it's your patience. It's not your system, it's your discipline. It's not the market, it's you. The market is the mirror, and every trade reflects who you're becoming. If you want to change your results, change what you see in that reflection. Become the trader who waits, who endures, who executes, who holds. Because in the end, the difference between winning and losing isn't found in strategy. It's found in silence, in patience, in the space between impulse and execution. That's where discipline lives. That's where mastery is forged. That's where your edge truly exists. So hold. Hold not because you're sure, hold because you're disciplined. Hold because your plan deserves a chance to prove itself. Hold because growth lives on the other side of discomfort. And when the discomfort rises and the urge to click close floods in, ask yourself one question. Am I following my plan or my fear? If it's fear, you already know the answer, because the only way to win in this game is to do the hard thing when it's hardest to do.